My daughter put me in jail for 5 months after planting drugs under my bed. I lost my job and my wife left me. Now she wants to apologize, but I have a restraining order and will never forgive her. I'm 47 years old. I work as a mechanic at a shop on the outskirts of town. And I need to tell this story because what my daughter did to me basically destroyed everything I had built in my life. I spent 5 months locked up in a cell for something I never did, and the worst part of it all is that it was my own blood who put me there. I guess I should start from the beginning. When Nicole was a teenager, and we started noticing something wasn't right with her, because looking back, it all makes more sense now. Although at the time I just thought it was a difficult phase, teenage stuff. Nicole was always complicated, since she was little, but when she hit adolescence, things got really bad. She must have been like 14 or 15 when she started hanging out with people I knew weren't good for her. Guys older than her. Kids who had already dropped out of school and basically spent their days doing nothing productive. My wife always told me I was too hard on Nicole, that I exaggerated things, that all teenagers go through rebellious phases, but I saw signs that she didn't want to see. I mean, I don't know if it was denial or what, but it was obvious our daughter was heading down the wrong path. At 16, Nicole left school. Just like that, she simply stopped going. And when we tried to force her, she would throw tremendous tantrums, screaming that we hated her, that we didn't understand her. All the typical drama, but multiplied by 1,000. I tried to be firm, set rules for her, but my wife always sabotaged me, gave her money behind my back, bought her things so she wouldn't get angry. Basically, she was spoiling her, and I couldn't do anything because every time I tried to discipline her, my own wife made me look like the bad guy. Things got worse when Nicole met that boyfriend, a guy like 22 years old who sold I don't know what things. I never knew exactly what he did, but it was obvious it wasn't anything legal. One night we had a horrible fight at the house. I told Nicole that either she respected our rules or she could leave, and you know what she did? She left. Literally grabbed a backpack, threw in some clothes, and left with that guy. That was when she was 17, almost 18 years old, and we didn't hear anything from her for 3 full years. 3 years. My wife cried every night at first. I tried to look for her, but it was impossible. We had no idea where she was. She didn't answer the phone, didn't respond to messages, nothing. It was like she had evaporated. I told myself that maybe it was for the best, that maybe she needed to hit rock bottom to learn. But the truth is, I was also eaten up by guilt. I thought that maybe I had been too hard, that maybe if I had been more patient, things would be different. And then, like 3 years later, she showed up again. She came to the house one afternoon, knocked on the door, and there she was, skinny, gaunt, with a broken suitcase and not a penny in her pockets. The boyfriend had left her, obviously, and she had nowhere to go. My wife immediately opened the doors for her. Literally before I could even process what was happening, she was already setting her up in her old room. I didn't agree. Not at all. I told my wife this was going to end badly, that Nicole needed to learn to fend for herself, that we couldn't keep rescuing her every time things got difficult. But my wife wouldn't listen to me. She told me she was our daughter, that we had to give her a chance, that she looked like she needed help, and I, like an idiot, gave in. I thought, well, maybe this time she really learned her lesson, maybe now she will change. But nothing changed. Nicole settled into the house and basically went back to being a useless teenager, but worse because now she was like 20 years old. She didn't look for work, didn't help with anything around the house, spent her time locked in her room or went out to who knows where until late at night. My wife prepared food for her, washed her clothes, gave her money when she asked for it. It was like having a queen in the house who didn't lift a finger for anything. Every day I was more fed up, more frustrated, because I worked all day at the shop, came home tired and had to see my 2 0-year-old daughter lying on the couch watching TV like she had no responsibility in the world. I tried to talk to her several times, told her she needed to look for work, do something with her life, but she completely ignored me, like she wouldn't even turn to look at me when I spoke to her. Like 6 months of this went by, 6 months of constant tension in the house, of fights between my wife and me because she didn't understand why I couldn't just accept that Nicole needed time, and I didn't understand why she didn't see that we were raising a completely useless and dependent person. Things reached a point where I just couldn't take it anymore. You know, there were days when I seriously thought about leaving the house myself because I couldn't stand the situation. And then one day, I think it was a Tuesday or Wednesday, I don't remember exactly. I came home from work, and Nicole was in the kitchen, eating something my wife had prepared for her. She didn't even greet me when I came in, and something in me just broke. I told her, "You have 24 hours to get a job or get out of my house," and I meant it, with a tone that I think even surprised myself. Nicole looked at me with that contemptuous face she always made and said something like, "Yeah, sure, whatever you say," in a super sarcastic tone, and my wife immediately started defending Nicole, saying I was a monster. How could I kick her out like that? The same broken record as always. What happened next? I still have trouble processing. It literally changed my life completely, and in the worst possible way. The next day, like 8 in the morning, I was getting ready to go to work when there was a knock on the door. I opened it, and it was 2 police officers with a search warrant. They told me they had received an anonymous tip that I had drugs in the house, and I laughed. I mean, I literally laughed because it seemed absurd to me. Ridiculous. I've never done drugs in my life. I don't even smoke cigarettes. But the officers were serious. They had an order signed by a judge, and they started searching the whole house. My wife was hysterical. Nicole had woken up with the commotion and was standing in the hallway watching everything with a face that now, looking back, I should have interpreted better because she had a strange expression, like nervous but also like she was expecting something. The police searched the living room, the kitchen, the bathroom, and then they went into my bedroom, the bedroom I shared with my wife. One of them crouched down next to the bed and pulled something out from under the mattress. From my side of the bed specifically, and when I saw what it was, I felt everything crashing down on me. They were bags, several plastic bags, full of something white, and the officer said, "Heroin. We have approximately half a kilo here." I froze, literally couldn't even speak. Felt like I was in one of those surreal nightmares where you can't scream even though you try. My wife started screaming that it wasn't possible, that it had to be a mistake. And I just kept repeating, "That's not mine. That's not mine." I don't know how it got there, but the police didn't believe me, obviously, because it was under my bed, in my bedroom, and technically it was my house. They handcuffed me right there, in front of my wife and daughter. As they were taking me out of the house, I managed to see Nicole. She was leaning against the hallway wall, and I swear to God I saw something on her face. A kind of little smile. Super subtle, but it was there, like she was satisfied seeing what was happening. At that moment, I didn't fully process it because I was in total shock, but that image stayed burned in my mind, and later, everything made sense. They put me in the patrol car and took me to the station, took my pictures, fingerprints, the whole humiliating process. They charged me with possession of controlled substances with intent to distribute, which is a super serious federal charge, and when I asked for bail, the prosecutor argued that the amount of drugs was so large that I represented a danger to the community. So they denied me bail. They sent me straight to county jail to await trial. I spent 5 months locked up. 5 months in a cell shared with other guys, some who really were real criminals, in a space that smelled of humidity and desperation, eating horrible food, unable to work, unable to do anything but wait. The first few days I didn't sleep at all. Literally nothing. I spent my time thinking about how I had ended up there, how it was possible that my life had been destroyed in one morning. I hired a public defender because I didn't have money for a private one. All our savings we had spent on the house and credit, cards, and the guy basically told me things looked bad, that they had physical evidence, that the drugs were in my room, that it was difficult to prove I didn't know anything about it. My wife visited me every 2 weeks, which was the maximum allowed, and the visits were horrible, super uncomfortable. She didn't know what to say to me. I didn't know what to say to her either. We sat in silence most of the time. On one of the visits, I think like the 3rd month of being locked up, she said something to me that broke my soul. She said, "I need to know the truth. Did you really not know anything about those drugs?" And I stared at her, unable to believe what I was hearing. I mean, my own wife, the person I had been married to for more than 25 years, doubted me. I told her, "Are you really asking me that? Do you really think I would be capable of having that amount of drugs in our house?" And she just shrugged and said, "It's just that I don't know what to think." They found it on your side of the bed. That was the last visit I had with her during my confinement. After that, she stopped coming, and I didn't want to insist either. I was too angry, too hurt. What saved me was my defense attorney, who, although he was a public defender, turned out to be pretty good. Or maybe I just got lucky. He kept investigating on his own and discovered things that the police hadn't investigated well from the beginning. He found text messages on Nicole's phone, messages she had sent to several people offering to sell drugs, messages where she talked about quantities, prices, meeting points. He also found that there were no fingerprints of mine on the bags where the heroin was, no DNA evidence connecting me to the drugs, nothing. And most importantly, he found several witnesses, people from the neighborhood who had seen Nicole hanging out with known dealers, buying and selling, using the house when I wasn't there as an exchange point. The prosecutor reviewed all this new evidence and basically realized he had no case against me, that everything pointed to Nicole, not me. They dropped the charges at a hearing where I was standing in front of the judge, unable to believe this was finally ending, and the judge even apologized to me. I said it was evident I had been a victim of a horrible situation and that he regretted the time I had unjustly lost. I got out of jail on a Friday afternoon, after 5 months locked up, and the first thing I did was go straight to the house. But when I got there, my wife told me Nicole was no longer there, that she had left 2 days after they arrested me, that she didn't know where she was. Turns out the police had also been looking for Nicole since all the evidence against her came up, and they found her in a horrible apartment in the worst part of town, living with 3 other guys who also dealt drugs. When they entered that place, they found more drugs, basically an arsenal of heroin, cocaine, pills, everything you can imagine, plus cash and weapons. Nicole was there, high as a kite, and when they tested her, she came up positive for heroin, cocaine, and amphetamines. They arrested her right there, and this time there was no way to deny anything. The evidence was overwhelming. Nicole's trial was like 6 months after I got out of jail. I didn't want to go, honestly. Didn't want to see her face ever again in my life, but my lawyer told me it was important for me to be there, that the judge needed to see the damage she had caused. I went and sat in the courtroom watching my daughter, who didn't even look like my daughter anymore. She looked like a completely different person, gaunt, with a lost look, shaking. Her lawyer tried to argue that she had addiction problems, that she needed treatment, not jail, the whole typical show. But the prosecutor presented all the messages, all the transactions, all the testimonies from people she had sold drugs to, and also presented forensic evidence that she had been the one who put the drugs under my bed. There were her fingerprints on the bags. There was evidence that she had accessed my bedroom while I wasn't there. The strongest part of the trial was when the prosecutor asked directly if she had been the one who made the anonymous tip, and her lawyer advised her not to answer, but the judge insisted, and Nicole finally admitted that yes, she had called the police and told them where to look. She didn't give any explanation, didn't apologize, just nodded yes, like she was talking about the weather. The judge found her guilty of possession with intent to distribute, of making a false report, of causing the wrongful imprisonment of another person, and gave her 8 years in a rehabilitation center with a prison regime. 8 years. When I heard the sentence, I didn't feel anything. Not relief or satisfaction or sadness. Just a huge emptiness. After the trial, I got a restraining order against Nicole. The judge granted it without any problem given everything that had happened. The order says she can't come within 500 meters of me, can't contact me in any way. Nothing. I thought that would bring some peace. But the truth is, it didn't change much because the damage was already done. My life was already destroyed. I lost my job at the shop because obviously I couldn't keep going while I was in jail, and when I got out and tried to get it back, the owner told me he had already hired someone else. That he was sorry, but he couldn't fire the guy who had taken my place. I had to look for work at another shop on the other side of town, earning less than what I earned before, basically starting from zero at 47 years old. But the worst was what happened with my marriage. I thought that after it became clear that I was innocent, that I had been a victim of my own daughter, my wife was going to support me, that we were going to be able to rebuild something together. But it wasn't like that. She kept defending Nicole, kept saying our daughter was sick, that I needed help, that we couldn't abandon her. I told her, "Are you listening to yourself? This person, because I can't even call her our daughter anymore, put me in jail for 5 months, ruined my life, and you want us to forgive her just like that? But she didn't understand. Or didn't want to understand. She kept writing letters to Nicole at the rehab center, kept sending her money when she could, kept acting like I was the villain for not wanting anything to do with someone who had betrayed me in the worst possible way. We fought constantly about this. Every day was the same argument. I told her she had to choose between Nicole and me, that she couldn't keep supporting someone who had hurt me so much. And she told me I was cruel, that I had no heart, that Nicole was still our daughter no matter what she had done. It got to a point where we couldn't even be in the same room without fighting. The tension was unbearable. So like 8 months ago, we decided to separate. I moved to the apartment on the other side of town, near the new shop where I work, and she stayed in the house. We haven't started divorce proceedings yet, but it's evident the marriage is over. There's no going back after all this. Now I live alone in this 2-bedroom apartment, work 6 days a week, trying to pay off the debts that accumulated during the months I was locked up without being able to earn anything. And I try not to think too much about how my life went to hell because of decisions I didn't even make. And sometimes I stay awake at night wondering what I did wrong. At what point things got so out of control, if there was something I could have done differently when Nicole was little, to prevent her from becoming what she became. But the truth is, I don't know if there are answers to those questions, and I don't know if it matters anymore. Last week, my ex-wife called me, which is rare because we hardly talk, and told me Nicole had written her a letter from the rehab center saying she wants to talk to me when she gets out, that she wants to apologize and try to fix things. I told her I'm not interested, that Nicole made her choices, and now she has to live with the consequences, that I already spent enough energy on someone who clearly never really considered me as her father. My ex-wife got angry, told me I was bitter, that everyone deserves second chances, but I just hung up the phone. I don't know if that makes me a bad person. I don't know if I should be able to forgive and move on, but honestly, I don't care anymore. I spent 5 months in jail for something I didn't do. Lost my job, my marriage, my peace of mind. Everything because my own daughter decided I was expendable, that she could use my life as a shield for her own problems. And that's not forgiven just like that, no matter how many apology letters she writes. I guess this is my life now. Work, pay bills, try to rebuild something from what's left, and hope that time will eventually make all this hurt less. I don't have big plans or expectations. I just try to get through one day at a time without thinking too much about everything I lost and how one single person could destroy everything in one selfish decision. And if Nicole ever gets out and tries to contact me, well, the restraining order is still in effect for another 5 years, so she has plenty of time to think about the consequences of her actions, just like I had 5 months to think about mine, while I was locked in a cell for something I never did.